The security room was a hive of controlled chaos. Monitors flickering with real-time feeds from the ancient warehouse and encrypted data streams tracking Seokjin's movements. Jungkook sat at the conference table, his hands clasped tightly to hide their trembling, hyper-aware of Taehyung beside him. The billionaire's presence was a grounding force, his dark eyes sharp as he listened to Jimin's update, but the faint bruise on his jaw, a reminder of last night's confrontation, kept Jungkook's nerves on edge. Their moment in the study, Taehyung's confession, "You're everything I didn't know I needed," still lingered, a fragile thread binding them amidst the escalating threat. Jimin stood at the head of the table, his tablet displaying a map dotted with red pins. "Seokjin slipped our net at the warehouse," he said, his voice clipped, frustration evident. "Hana's intel confirmed he's Yoongi's right hand, orchestrating the leak to pressure you out of the merger vote. They're regrouping, likely planning a bigger move, possibly targeting Jin directly to force your hand." Jungkook's stomach twisted, his name a weight in the room. He glanced at Taehyung, expecting the billionaire's usual command to take over, but instead, Taehyung turned to him, his gaze steady. "What do you think?" Jin asked, his voice low, inviting. "You're part of this now." The question caught Jungkook off guard, his heart racing at the trust implied. He swallowed, his mind scrambling to process the stakes. "If they're targeting me," he said slowly, his voice steadier than he felt, "they'll expect me to be weak. Scared. Maybe we can use that. Make them think I'm an easy mark, then hit them where they don't expect." Jimin's brows rose, a flicker of respect crossing his face. "A decoy play," he said, nodding. "Risky, but it could draw Seokjin out. We'd need tight security, eyes on you at all times." Taehyung's jaw tightened, his fingers drumming lightly on the table, a rare sign of unease. "No," he said, his voice firm but measured. "I won't put you in their line of fire. We find another way." Jungkook's defiance flared, his eyes locking onto Taehyung's. "You said we're in this together," he said, his voice quiet but resolute. "I'm not helpless, Taehyung. Let me help. I'm already a target, might as well use it." The room went still, Jimin and the other security personnel exchanging glances, sensing the tension between them. Taehyung's gaze bore into Jungkook's, a storm of protectiveness and something deeper, pride, maybe, or fear. "You're not bait," he said, his voice low, almost a growl. "I won't risk you." Jungkook leaned forward, his hands unclenching, his voice soft but firm. "You're already risking everything. Let me carry some of it. Trust me." For a moment, Taehyung was silent, his eyes searching Jungkook's face. Then, almost imperceptibly, he nodded, a concession that felt like a victory. "Fine," he said, his voice tight. "But you don't move without my team." "No heroics." Jimin cleared his throat, redirecting the focus. "We'll set up a control scenario, leak a fake schedule, make it look like Jin's vulnerable. We'll have eyes on every angle. If Seokjin bites, we take him down." He glanced at Taehyung, waiting for approval. Taehyung's gaze lingered on Jungkook a moment longer before he nodded. "Do it," he said, his voice final. "But if anything goes wrong, it's on you, Jimin." As the team dispersed to prepare, Taehyung and Jungkook remained, the room's silence heavy with unspoken words. Jungkook stood, his heart still racing from the confrontation, but Taehyung's hand on his arm stopped him, the touch firm but gentle. "You're braver than I give you credit for," Taehyung said, his voice low, his eyes softening. But don't make me regret this, Jian. Jungkook's breath hitched, the warmth of Taehyung's touch grounding him. I won't, he said softly, meeting Taehyung's gaze. But you have to stop treating me like I'll break. I'm here for a reason. Taehyung's lips curved, a faint, almost smile that sent a jolt through Jungkook. I know, he said, his voice quieter now, almost tender. And that reason's starting to mean more than I planned. The words hung between them, charged with possibility. Jungkook wanted to ask what he meant, to peel back another layer of Taehyung's guarded heart, but the billionaire's hands slid away, and he stepped back, his expression closing off. Get some rest, Taehyung said, his tone reverting to command. We'll need you sharp. He paused at the door, glancing back. And stay close. I mean it. As Taehyung left, Jungkook sank into the chair, his heart pounding. The plan to draw out Seokjin was risky, but Taehyung's trust, his admission that Jungkook meant more, gave him strength. He was no longer just a surrogate, no longer just a pawn. He was Taehyung's partner in this fight, bound by a legacy and something deeper, something that felt like a spark ready to ignite. The estate's training room was a stark, utilitarian space, all concrete walls and padded floors, a far cry from the opulent halls Jungkook had grown accustomed to. He stood in the center, his breath uneven, as Jimin adjusted a discreet earpiece in his ear, the device a cold reminder of the decoy operation set to unfold that evening. The plan was simple. Jungkook would appear vulnerable at a staged public event, a low-profile cafe visit, while Taehyung's team waited to intercept Seokjin or his men. Simple, but every detail screamed danger, and Jungkook's nerves were frayed despite his resolve. Jimin stepped back, his sharp eyes assessing Jungkook. You'll be wired the whole time, he said, his voice calm but firm. We'll hear everything. 2 teams will be on you, one visible, one hidden. If anything feels off, you say the code word, legacy, and we pull you out. Jungkook nodded, his throat tight, his hands shoved into the pockets of his jeans to hide their trembling. Got it, he said, his voice steadier than he felt. What if they don't take the bait? Jimin's lips twitched, a rare hint of a smile. They will. Yoongi's people are desperate. You're their leverage against Mr. Kim. He paused, his gaze softening slightly. You're holding up better than I expected, Jian. Most would have bolted by now. Jungkook forced a small smile, but his thoughts were on Taehyung. The billionaire's reluctant trust in the security room, the heroics, and his quiet admission that reason's starting to mean more than I planned, gave Jungkook strength, but also fear. He was risking everything, not just for his family, but for a man who was becoming more than his protector. The door swung open, and Taehyung entered, his presence filling the room like a storm. His dark suit was impeccable, but his eyes were turbulent, fixed on Jungkook with an intensity that made the air feel thinner. Jimin, he said, his voice low, commanding. Give us a moment. Jimin nodded, slipping out without a word, leaving Jungkook and Taehyung alone. The silence was heavy, the weight of the operation and their unspoken emotions pressing down. Taehyung crossed the room, stopping just close enough for Jungkook to feel the heat of his presence, his gaze searching Jungkook's face. You don't have to do this, Taehyung said, his voice low, almost a plea. We can find another way. Say the word, and I'll call it off. Jungkook's heart raced, the vulnerability in Taehyung's tone catching him off guard. He met Taehyung's eyes, his resolve hardening. "I'm doing this," he said, his voice firm despite the fear curling in his chest. "You said we're in this together. I'm not backing out now." Taehyung's jaw clenched, a muscle ticking as he struggled with his instincts. "You're too damn stubborn," he said, his voice rough but tinged with something softer, pride, maybe, or fear. "This isn't just a game, Jian. If something goes wrong, it won't." Jungkook cut in, stepping closer, his eyes locked on Taehyung's. "You trust your team, don't you?" "Trust me too. I can handle this." Taehyung's gaze darkened, a storm of emotions flickering: protectiveness, frustration, something deeper. He reached out, his hand cupping Jungkook's jaw, his thumb brushing over his cheek in a gesture so tender it stole Jungkook's breath. "You're not just handling this," he said, his voice low, raw. "You're changing everything. My plans, my control, my heart." Jungkook's breath hitched, the confession sending a shiver through him. Taehyung's touch was electric, grounding him in the chaos, and for a moment, the world narrowed to the space between them. "Taehyung," he whispered, his voice trembling with the weight of his own feelings. "I'm scared. But I'm here. For you." Taehyung's eyes softened, his hand sliding to the back of Jungkook's neck, pulling him closer until their foreheads touched, their breaths mingling. "I know," he said, his voice barely audible, a vow and a confession. "And I'm here for you. Always." The moment was fragile, charged with unspoken promises, and Jungkook felt himself leaning into it, his hands resting on Taehyung's chest, feeling the steady beat of his heart. He wanted to close the distance, to let the spark between them ignite, but a sharp knock at the door broke the spell. Jimin's voice came through, urgent but respectful. "Sir, we are ready to move." Taehyung pulled back, his expression hardening, though his eyes still held a flicker of warmth for Jungkook. "Stay sharp," he said, his voice reverting to command. "And don't take risks." "I'll be watching." Jungkook nodded, his heart still pounding, Taehyung's touch lingering on his skin. "I will," he said softly, his resolve strengthened by the billionaire's words. "See you on the other side." As Taehyung left to join the team, Jungkook adjusted the earpiece, the weight of the operation settling over him. He was stepping into a trap, risking everything to protect Taehyung's legacy, and their fragile connection. But as he followed Jimin out, Taehyung's confession, "You're changing my heart," gave him courage. He was bound to this man, this fight, and he wasn't turning back, no matter the cost.